What is up, fellas and lady fellas? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I've got a new news video for you here. We're talking about DARKLORD support that got released late last night. 5 new cards to be exact. I was a little surprised to see this because we got the DARKLORD Link 2 in Link Vrains Pack 3, at least the OCG did, and then we just got it in Dual Overload, so I was surprised to see that we're immediately getting more. I thought their Link monster was actually pretty good for their archetype. I just thought, also, it's not enough, and I guess Konami agreed, so that's why we're seeing the support here. But I don't want to waste too much time. Let's just get right into it. We'll start with our first monster here, DARKLORD of Delight. She is a level 4 Dark Fairy effect monster with 0 attack, 1600 defense, and she has 2 effects that are both hard once per turn. The first effect reads, during your main phase, during any main phase actually, you can quick effect, immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 fairy monster face up. Secondly, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can make all face-up monsters your opponent controls lose 500 for each fairy monster currently on the field until the end of this turn. So I love that it's a quick effect. The quick effect's actually super good if you already had something that you could tribute summon. If it's a level 6 or a 5 fairy, then if your opponent tries to mess with her at all, you can just quick effect tag her out to then get the other guy on, and then she makes your opponent's entire board weaker. So I think she's actually a pretty nice card going second. She does give you the potential to easily beat over a lot of your opponent's board, which is really nice because a decent amount of the DARKLORD stuff is beaters, but they're not huge. So if your opponent did have any big stuff, for walking around 3,000, 2,500, 3,000, you are going to make those much easier to beat over, which is really cool. But yeah, I think it's a pretty cool card. Overall, I think it's generic. A couple things I did look at though. Also, let's see, I didn't have this ready because I'm a flippin' fool. But yeah, some of the cards, the generic cards you can use as well, not just DARKLORD stuff, is Christia. This is an insanely good monster. When it's on the field, neither player can special summon. So if you have a 2,800 beater, neither player can special summon. A lot of times you'll just win the duel. Vanity's Ruler is another fairy. Takes 2 tributes, so that's kind of tough, but your opponent can't special summon. You can special summon, but your opponent can't. So again, kind of the same thing as Christia. And the last thing here was Sky Scourge Imbecile. It's an interesting card. If it's tribute summon using a dark fairy, you can negate all trap effects while it's face up on the field, and if it's tributed with a light fairy, you can negate the effects of all spell cards. So depends. Obviously, DARKLORDs are dark fairy, so unfortunately you are negating traps instead of spells. I think spells. Oh, actually, it's a dark fiend. Never mind. That doesn't even apply. Never mind. This doesn't even apply. I thought it was dark fairy, not dark fiend. That doesn't even work. Forget that. But yeah, so the other two are interesting: Vanity's Ruler and Archlord Christia. But yeah, really cool card. I think she's pretty interesting generically, and she is level 4. So the what's her name? Oh my gosh, the Forbidden Girl, whatever. She searches a forbidden spell or trap on summon, and then she can, on your opponent's turn, tag out into a level 4 fairy. So she could tag into this, then this could quick tribute on your opponent's turn, and then you're doing some fun stuff there. Moving on though, our second card is DARKLORD of Pleasure. This is another level 4 dark fairy, 1600 attack this time instead of defense, 0 defense. You can only use its effect once per turn. That effect is, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can activate this effect. For the rest of this turn, you cannot activate monster effects except for fairy monsters. Also choose 2 DARKLORD monsters in hand and or deck that have different levels, and if you do, special summon 1 to your opponent's field in defense position, and if you do that, add the other one to your hand. So the way I look at this is that Konami looked at DARKLORDs are they already draw so much, maybe we shouldn't just give them a straight up Stratos. Let's give them a Stratos with some downside. It's Stratos, but you do have to give your opponent a monster in the process, so that's kind of where you get cut short a little bit. But I still think it's fine. It does still just search you, and there are smaller DARKLORD monsters like these ones. I mean, if you're giving them a defense one, it doesn't even say except herself, so you could theoretically just give your opponent her in defense position, and that's just a 0 defense monster. If it wasn't the first turn of the duel, you would easily be able to add it in the battle phase. So there's silver linings there. But I think they just didn't want this to be as good as an actual Stratos, so they nerfed it a little bit. But I think it's a good card, so I think it'll be fine in the archetype for sure. And again, it's a level 4, so it can be tagged into by the other whatever it is, the other dark fairy that's not actually a DARKLORD that tags into level 4 level 4 fairies. So it's pretty cool. Moving on, we have a new like big Dark Lord monster, Darklord Nergal. Great. He's a level 8 dark fairy effect monster with 2700 attack, 2500 defense. Pretty solid stats. You can special summon him only once per turn, and you can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. If your fairy monster attacks a defensive monster, it inflicts piercing damage. So it does give every fairy you control piercing. That's fine. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Whatever. Second effect, quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points, target a Dark Lord spell or trap in grave, and then apply that target's effect, then shuffle that target into the deck. It's pretty cool. I mean, like, that's pretty standard for a lot of the Dark Lord boss monsters, having that quick effect to apply the spell and traps. I think this one's actually pretty bad, like, even compared to, like, the ones we already have. Maybe he's a one-of, but, like, that's absolutely it at most. He doesn't have a way to summon himself. All he does is add piercing to everything, and he has the same disruption effect that everything else already has. So I think he's actually super lackluster. I'm not too worried about this guy. Then we move to the big stuff. So this is a new fusion monster. It's level 12, which is wild. This is Lucifer, Dark Lord of the Morning Star. He's a level 12 dark fairy fusion effect monster with 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense, and his materials are 3 dark fairy monsters. Woo! Alright, you can only use one effect amongst the first and third effects of this card's name once per turn and only once per turn. Keep that in mind, so you cannot use both in the same turn. You have to use one and then maybe save the other one for the next turn. First effect reads, if this card is fusion summoned using Dark Lord Morningstar as material, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. Pretty strong. Second effect, fairy monsters you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. Pretty good protection. And the third effect, during any main phase as a quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points to special summon a fairy straight from your hand or graveyard in defense position. Also a very nice recursive +1 type effect. Very nice. I think overall this card's very, very powerful, but I think what we're going to see here is that no matter how powerful something is, you do still have to look at what are you giving up for this? Because right now we're giving up a fusion spell and 3 dark fairies. So we're giving up 4 cards just to summon him. Is he worth 4 cards? Maybe. He's 4,000, 4,000, so he's huge. He has the potential to just board wipe your opponent on summon. He gives every fairy on your field targeting protection, and he also, once per turn, just gets to either special summon one of the fairies that you used to summon him in the first place, because you know there's going to be at least some in the graveyard, or one from hand if you're trying to get it out. I think it's strong, but let's just take a look at the fusion. Our fusion's actually a trap card here. This is Rebellious Dark Lord, a normal trap that you can only activate once per turn. That effect reads, send any Dark Lord monster that is in your hand or on your field to the graveyard as cost. Then fusion summon 1 dark fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand and or field as fusion material. Then you can gain life points equal to the attack of the monster sent to the graveyard to activate this card. Its attack on the field if sent from there. Alright, so there's a lot going on here. I think pretty much the one thing we're going to have to look at here is because I even said, oh, you got to use at least 3 dark fairies and the fusion card. Well, that's not even entirely true, because if you're activating this on the field, you have to send a Dark Lord from hand or field. That's 1. You have to use this card. That's 2 resources. And then you need to send 3 dark fairies from hand or field to the graveyard. That is 5 cards you were putting into him. And I don't know if there's a single card in Yu-Gi-Oh! I trust that I have enough faith in to put 5 resources into all at once, and if it gets stopped, you lose the duel. I don't know if I really like that. It makes for a super fragile like deck and all that stuff. So the one thing that is silver lining here is that this is a Dark Lord spell or trap. So like this guy, for example, he does his effect to apply the effect, which means you don't pay cost, means you don't have to send the extra monster from hand, and you're not using this as a resource on field. It's a card you already had engraved, so you didn't actually have it as an active resource at that time anyway. In that instance, you're pretty much trading 3 dark fairy monsters for this, which is not as bad, but still. Like, luckily, this is a card that you could just play like 1 of in your main deck, and then like 1 of in your extra deck, or a 3 of if you're playing like like Pot of Extravagance or something, just so it's like resolvable. And then you mainly focus on just getting this in the grave and then activating from grave, so you're using only 3 resources instead of 5, because then maybe this card's understandable as like a 3 card investment. But as 5, I just think it's way too much. It's very powerful, don't get me wrong. It's just all relative to like what you're getting. It's like what are you getting versus what you're putting in to get that. And then like the risk that comes with, if it gets stopped, do you just lose the duel? Yes. I think almost every single instance that if this card gets solemn striked, solemn judgmented, whatever, like if they activate this, well, I guess you wouldn't be sending, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like on summon, they have some kind of way to take care of this immediately. That's non-targeting, obviously, and just get rid of him. And you just lose, like, for sure. Like, you just lose the duel. You just wasted 3 or 5 resources, and it means you probably just lost. So that's my problem there. I think the 2 smaller monsters are fine. I think they might actually have a place in the deck, but I don't see this guy really being that good. And I think these 2, maybe you play one of this at the chance you can just get it into grave easily and then activate it from grave just to have like a quick win condition. But again, like just to even do that, you'd still have to have 3 Darklord monsters on field or in grave to do it. And I do like that it gets a monster back immediately. So even if you trade 3 dark like fairies, he does get 1 back immediately. So it is like you only put 2 into him, and then on the next turn you get another one. So like it does start to make up that advantage. But I wouldn't like bank my whole strategy on it. That's the main thing I'm saying there. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm not really too keen on Darklords. I have never really played them before, but I've seen them. I like their artwork. I think they're a cool archetype, the way the monsters use the spell and traps from graveyard to get them like a second time, which is really cool. But I've never actually played, like I said. So if I'm missing any particular like uses of any of these cards, definitely let me know down below and let me know what you think, because I think the support, if you told me my favorite archetype got 5 cards, I'd be ecstatic. And if I read them and they were this good, I'd be kind of let down that like 2 of them are like solid and the other 3 are like you know what I mean? Like I'd be so let down. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.